It has now been over 2 weeks that Bitcoin has been stuck in this triangle pattern. And whilst many of you might think that it has been hard to trade, I have actually been able to take some very nice trades. Let me show you what I've done this week and then proceed to show you what I think will come next. So as you can see, we've had this perfect triangle going from high to low to the little breakout of a triangle, a fake out once again to the low of the triangle that we have right here, once again to the high of the triangle right here. And now for the fourth time, we have now touched the low of the triangle where we are currently finding support. So in this triangle, I was actually able to take a very nice short trade right here. And this was a very simple setup. I simply shorted the high of the triangle that we had right here, lining up with the value area high of the range and the anchor VWAP from all-time high. We touched it exactly to the dollar, had a very, very nice reaction on the 4 hours as well as on the 30 minutes, and that was my short entry. As you can see, I sent this beforehand in my Discord saying if we are to reject, this is where I would expect a rejection. My entry was at 113,344, and from there we had a massive rejection all the way down to 106.6, where I actually took a long trade off of this simple SFP that we had right here. If you do not know what an SFP is, I suggest that you go and look at this video on my YouTube channel, Bootcamp Day 4 Liquidity Graph, where I explain exactly how to use this setup. And from here, we had a massive pump all the way up to 116,000. As you can see, this was my trade at 107. And I actually ended up making about $4,000 off of this trade. And then I actually called a short trade at range high, which was right here off of an SFP on the 4 hours of these previous highs. From here, I switched to short. I have a short open from all-time high at 125.7 on my Bybit account. And by the way, I teach all of this stuff in my mentorship on how to take these trades and the strategies to use. And if you're interested in that, I suggest that you enter the Discord with the link in my bio and reach out to me for some more information. So as you can see, I'm actually still in this short trade from 115, and we are now at 107. So basically, I took 3 important trades: the high of the triangle, then I switched long to here off of this SFP, and then I switched once again to short off of this SFP. And these are things that I have fully covered in my mentorship and that I share for free in my Discord. And last thing, let me show you this short trade on Ethereum where I had given an entry at this daily level, lining up with the anchor VWAP at 4244. Look at that. Perfection to the dollar, perfect rejection off of the anchor VWAP and the daily level. That is a short trade any time of the day. And this would have given you an insane trade. And by the way, I do think it's possible for Ethereum to go all the way down below $3,000 if we are not to hold this area right here. So if we are to lose this anchor VWAP, and if we don't get a reaction at the low of this wick, so something like this, then I would expect for price to go all the way down to 2.8, perhaps even 2.5. And that's all I will say about Ethereum. Now let's focus on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, of course, I am already in the trades that I want it to be, but what I can see as a new trade would be for price to move once again up here to this point of control, lining up with this anchor VWAP. And here I would look for an SFP of these highs to potentially get into a short trade. Of course, we would have to consider that we will have broken out of the triangle, so we could expect a further pump off of a backtest. But if we are to take the highs and go back into the triangle and do something like this, then perhaps we could expect for price to further break down, either to go fill this wick that we have here that I have covered in the past. And here we can look for a possible reversal. If not, for me, the next interesting area, as I've said many times, will be $96,000 with the possibility to go all the way down to this value area low of this old range. So I still think that something like this is possible. Of course, if this happens, we would have to probably be aware that what we can do is put in a lower high right here, and we can look for a short trade, perhaps for much lower targets. So we do have to consider an option where it might be possible that we have put in the high right here, and we might see a bigger fall down before recovering once again for a new all-time high. So we do gotta keep this in mind. So my next interesting short trade, I would say, is at about 111.3, something like this, looking for lower. And this does get invalidated, as I said, if we flip this triangle into support and we move up. There is some resistance at around 115, 116, but given the context, I would expect at this point to move up higher. And once we reclaim even like 113, for example, there will not be much resistance until 120. And so we could see a very quick move. So I don't want to get too bearish, but I will still consider this short trade. Let's also take a look at order flow on this big fall that we had to 107. Unfortunately, order flow is not looking very favorable for upside, as we actually have had not so many shorts stuck on this downfall. And if you know how I trade, that's typically what I like to see. I would like to see shorts being stuck at the lows, which we had 3.2 million shorts stuck, but that's not too much. These are just longs closing. By the way, if you want to learn how to read this, it is part of my course. So I would say, and even here, you can see a lot of longs opening, 7 million, 3 million, just right here, that's 10 million new longs opening. Another 2 million here. Based on order flow, I would say that it is more likely for us to proceed downwards. But if for some reason we do bounce here, I do understand that it is off of this low of the triangle, perhaps a reclaim of this value area low, and we could see this move up. And slowly with the reclaims, as I said, this can move up very, very fast. But as of now, I would not get too excited. And as of now, I rather miss this long trade because, as I said, I prefer to see lower prices. And for the longs, as I've explained already, this will be my first long if we get a correct reaction off of the fill of this wick. We can look for something like this. And my second long will be more of an area, I would say. We would have to wait for price to see what it does. Also, let's keep in mind that if the triangle breaks, our target would become about 93.8. So I think this area is a good area of support from the old value area low to the old point of control. And I would wait for a lower time frame trigger, which can be that we go down here. I wait for price to come down. I see what happens. Perhaps we get a lower time frame SFP, price reclaims, and then I would have my entry. So something like this, looking once again for a reversal with the potential, as I've mentioned before, that we may find resistance on a rise, which we can take a short on. But as of now, we don't have enough data to see this. So I will cover this in the future. Of course, this setup can happen right here, or perhaps it can happen at 96,000. So I would prefer for price to bounce at 96, but I do keep in mind that it's possible that we can go to 91. Of course, these are all probabilities. Nothing is certain in trading. Perhaps we can just keep on continue going down all the way down to 75. So of course, these are not guarantees, but they are possible areas of reversal. So yeah, not much more to update. Honestly, altcoins are just getting destroyed. I have not really been trading them. I actually sold a part of my Ethereum at 4.2. I sold a little bit of my Solana at 210, I think. So I don't have so much exposure to altcoins. And do keep in mind that if Bitcoin goes all the way down to below 100,000, these altcoins will get pretty destroyed. And they already are getting destroyed as of now. Try not to hold a lot of spot in altcoins. I mainly hold Solana and Ethereum and AVAX and SUI. All the rest, I would say just really be careful. Use them more for trading. There's no point holding a coin which, look at this from here to here. It has literally lost 90%. Same for Pepe, has lost 60%. So I know a lot of you are probably in drawdown and are losing money, but I would say try not to buy spot and just trade them because they have great volatility and they do offer great trades. So that's all for today. I hope everything is clear. And do remember that I have a free Discord where I send all my signals for free. So if you want to join that, I will see you inside. Use the link in my bio.